Again, we missed last week, but we're making it up this week. And online, we've got Shena Stubbs Gibson, attorney at law and our information guru. How are you doing, Sheena?
We're doing well.
Yes.
I'm doing good. Thanks be to
Yes.
God.
Amen. God is
Uh,
good.
Morning to you, morning to your listeners.
Indeed.
We've been talking about
Mm-hmm.
pension for persons who have worked in the public service. So there are lots of civil servants
Mm-hmm.
who would be interested in this particular topic. We have been speaking about how do you qualify for a pension and when do you qualify for a pension, uh, so that persons are informed and they know if they should be getting a pension earlier maybe than they thought,
Right.
and if there are other routes to getting a pension. For instance, somebody sent me an email since week
Mm-hmm.
to say that she had not yet reached pensionable age. She was 56. But she's no longer in the service and she has worked in the service for over 20 years. And but because she hasn't reached the age yet, I think the ministry was telling her 60, she said, or 65. I don't remember the email exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to know why on earth she wouldn't be able to get
To
her
get a
pension.
pension.
So persons always have questions around pension, and that is why I thought that this would be a good era for us
Yes.
to talk about. To let persons know that even if you leave the service before age 65 or age 60, that you can still get a pension. That if you leave because of ill health and you are put in a certain number of years, you can still get a pension. So the last thing we spoke about on the last occasion was retirement on the ground of ill health,
Mm-hmm.
where I had pointed out that if someone, a member, if a civil servant retires on the ground of ill health, so you're not well, and because of that, you've had to
To
um,
retire.
retire. If your service is 10 or more years, but less than 20 years, you can get additional years added to your years to bring your service up to 20 years, right? These additional years are used to give you an additional pension. So if you leave on a ill health, but you haven't quite made the
The
20 years
20
as
years.
yet, but you have done more than the 10 years,
Uh-huh.
there is facility in place for you to get additional years added to your years of service to give you an additional pension. So if this applies to you, this is something that you want to note and ask about how you can get those. Get in touch with them. Let them know that you didn't do the 20 years. If there is, you would like to be able to take advantage of the option for additional years to be added to bring your service to 20 years,
Wow.
right? There are
Mm-hmm.
different, they will set out the different conditions. Okay, if you apply, if they apply to you, and uh, then, it will flow from there.
Okay.
Also, if there are breaks in service, some persons don't know this, right? You're a civil servant, and let us say that you worked in government for a period of time. Let us say you did under 8 years. Like someone I know did 9 years on one occasion, and
Mm-hmm.
then broke the service and came back and did another in excess
You
of
add
10 years,
right.
and thinking that you can only get pension for the period that you have done in excess of 10 years. No, this is not so. If you did a period before
Uh-huh.
and then you come back and you do another period of 10 years, there is provision there for the years of service to be
That
treated
were
as
gone.
unbroken. Yes.
Okay.
So, especially if you did, some people did, so you did your stint in your 20s and you
Mm-hmm.
did some years, and then later on you left for like 10, 15 years, and you came back and you did another 14 years, and then you left. You
Right.
may be thinking that it's only, only the period that you did in excess of 10 years. So I want persons to know this so that they're doing their own, not just their own calculations, but that they're getting in touch. I think it's important for us to know what we are entitled to so that not just persons telling us that this is what you're entitled to, because it may well be that your documentation for your earlier stints is not known. So the person's putting together your pension was only seized of the information pertaining to your latest stint, but you had a stint before. Many people have stints, more than one stint in government. You start a stint when you're early, you leave and go to private sector, and then you make your way back into government. So it is important that you make certain that the information about all your stints in the service, that all of that information is looked at when you get your letter from the Ministry of Finance before your pension payment becomes, due and payable, and you get that letter. Make certain that you have a conversation and that you're satisfied that the way that they computed your pension, that it included the earlier stints that you had in the service.
Boy, I tell you,
No,
it's
there is
I
also
want to interject here the importance of asking questions.
yes,
That keeps coming up. It's very important. But
yes,
unfortunately, sometimes you don't know what questions to ask. But just think,
right,
sometimes when you think, are there benefits? Maybe that could be a question. Are there any
yes,
benefits that I can receive? Ask your HR person or go to the
yes.
the, the applicable ministry. All right.
And that's why we're sharing this information, Nadine,
Right.
because I hope that persons are like maybe scribbling down something when they hear this. They say, wait, let me ask them about my break
Right.
in service because
Right.
I know some of the break. So this is giving persons an opportunity to specifically mention something that they have heard about. Because depending on who answer the phone sometimes, Nadine,
Mm-hmm.
you call and you say, any benefits to me? Somebody say,
No.
somebody said no, I just tell you
Call
one
the
thing.
ministry.
When there's more, but when you can call and say, I broke my service, but I understand that I can still get a pension.
Mm-hmm.
My pension calculation should still include the previous period of work. When you can call and articulate that yourself, then it triggers someone to say, "Let me double check that." You understand? All
Uh-huh.
the while, and I call institutions, places, and persons will kind of say, "I think so." If someone answers me and tells me over the phone, you ask if someone is there or if you can get a proper a service. They tell you, "I don't think so." No, you need to go and check and tell me exactly. If you don't think so, that you haven't answered my question, and
Right,
then the
right.
expectation is that
Press
you'll
for
hang
the
up the phone.
answer.
Yeah, that
Same
you'll
thing
hang
when
up the
you
phone
pray.
when they don't. Yes, if you call these services, if the person even sound like they're not sure,
Yes,
push the issue.
yes,
Tell them to go. Do you want to double check that? That's something I say to
right,
persons sometimes too. Do you want to double check that?
right.
All right. So another thing
Well,
that
before you go to another thing, there's a question coming in. If you have worked with a private company for over 20 years, are you entitled to a pension?
well, that is a private company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for private companies, so what I'm talking about is civil service. For private companies, it would turn on what the policy of that
Of that
company is,
company.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of companies, after you reach a certain number of years working with them, then you would have been on their pension plan. So I don't know about this person's particular company, but a lot of private companies, like let us say after 5 years or so, you become vested is the expression that they use. So at that point in time, you've been paying pension for 5 years that each month pension is being deducted from your salary. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, and there's a particular point in time for some companies it's 5 years, for some companies 10 years. So after 10 years or 5 years, you become vested. That means you are entitled to a pension at that point. So if
Mm-hmm.
this person is working with a company like that, where they were paying pension through their monthly salary, a certain sum was being deducted by the employer, and the employer was also putting a share, and that person was in the company's therefore part of the company's pension scheme. They would need to find out what's the vesting period under that scheme. So was it 3 years? Was it 5 years? Was it 10? It's not usually longer than 10. And then what would usually happen is that now that the person has left the company, the funds would usually stay in the pension fund until the person reaches. Sometimes the person will get a portion, like if they were doing voluntary contributions, if they were like just putting in some extra monies, because the law allows you to do that too, to store up to a certain amount of money in extra pension payments, which I encourage persons to take advantage of. Don't just pay the minimum if you can afford to pay, and this is for private sector now. If you can afford to pay some more monthly, pay it, because it's
back.
yes, and it's tax free, so it's a very good it's a very it's a very good vehicle to save in, and you'll get it back later on. So if this person was paying, Nadine, and they left they did 20 years, and they have left, I kind of feel like maybe the person wasn't paying, because I'm surprised that they would be asking the question and that they wouldn't know. But like I feel like HR would usually have said, this is what is going to happen to your pension. So the fact that the person doesn't seem to know, it could be that they were not in a pension scheme. But just in case they were, and somehow or the other, they didn't get the information, get in touch with your HR, the HR at the company that you worked with, and they will tell you, confirm that you were vested, and they will tell you the age, which is usually the retirement age for the company. It may be 65. There's also something for deferred pensioners, persons who don't reach the age of 65. Usually call that deferred pensioners. So let us say that the company, we're gone into private sector now, but allow me for those who are in the private sector. So let us say that at your company, the normal retirement age is 65, but they may have provision for deferred pensioners. So you could leave earlier than 65. For some companies, it's 55 that you can start to become a deferred pensioner. And what that means is if you get to that age, you could still get a pension, even though you're not at that age. So the person, depending on their age, they have done 20 years. Let us say they're 55, maybe they're in a deferred, they are entitled to be treated as a deferred pensioner, even though they haven't reached the normal retirement age yet. So the answer to the question to the listener is, so the answer to is it turns on your workplace, the place that you work for, and whether you were making pension payments monthly. If you were making pension payments monthly, then yes, you're entitled to a pension. If you weren't making pension payments monthly, then no, you're not entitled to a pension.
Right.
So if you were making payments and you don't know your situation, get in touch with your HR person and ask them about when your pension payments will kick in. If they tell you that is when you reach retirement age, and you ask them if you can, what about getting it earlier, like a deferred pensioner?
Right. Boy, I tell you, you know what happened now? The time.
What happened? What happened? Yes, oh Lord. Time. Yes, time.
We always end up with this, but
yes, time.
Yeah.
Time.
But I'm glad that we were able to answer that question. I see somebody else, and I guess it would be the same thing. Somebody else is asking, I work with a contracting company for 18 years. Am I supposed to get a pension? Same thing. If you were paying it, then you should get it. But it is so important wherever you are in life now, if you're able to ask. So those of you, I see persons, they want to know the number. We always give the number and a contact, so that persons can send their questions, and then Shena is very diligent to respond the following week.
Yes. Send preferably, right. Send a message to the WhatsApp number that Auntie Nadine provides, and she will get the message to me or send me a WhatsApp,
Right.
preferred than calling.
Right. Send a WhatsApp. Send a so if you need more information, just send it to me here on the WhatsApp. They're asking about domestic helpers. What about domestic helpers? Is
Well, for a lot of domestic helpers, it would be NIS pension,
NIS?
unless right for NIS, because that is why they should pay NIS. So
Okay.
then, what a lot of domestic helpers would get would be NIS pension.
Mhm.
To get a regular, more substantial pension, their employer would have had to have created some kind of pension plan for them, and that's unlikely. So it would be
Okay.
more NIS.
All right. Well, we gotta run. Thank you. Oh Lord, we're over time. Time
Yes,
goes so quickly. Sheena,
yes.
thank you so much again. And
You're welcome.
oh, let me get there because see people on WhatsApp, on YouTube and Facebook asking for the information. So I'll send it right now. Thank you so much for sharing. And folks, remember you only send the WhatsApp question to the number I will post. Thank you. Have a great rest of the
Take
day,
care.
Sheena.
Bye.
All the best.
Bye. Okay.
All right, that's it for the feature, governance, policies, and you. Thank you for making it Love 101. Those of you on Facebook and WhatsApp, I'm sorry, Facebook and YouTube, you have the question, the contact information right there. You can send the WhatsApp or text to the number 876-564-1752. And if you're on WhatsApp, you can send the request for the contact information. Thank you for listening.
Make sure your child can live life to the